Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to discuss another interview related problem based on arrays in JavaScript. So let's see what the problem states. Given an integer array nums, move all the zeros to the end of it while maintaining the relative order of the non-zero elements. Also note that you must have to do this in place without making a copy of the array. So let's discuss this problem in detail. So let's deep dive into the code editor. So let's say this is the given array. We have like 2, 0, 3, 0, 0, 5 and 1. So the output according to the question should be 2, then 3, then 5, then 1 and then the three zeros we have in this array. Similarly for this input, the output should be like 9, then 12, then 4, then 1 and the 5 zeros. So there are a couple of things which we have to notice. Like the first thing given in the question is we have to maintain the relative order. Like this 3 should come in between 2 and 5 only, as in the given input. Like 3 comes in between 2 and 5 only. And we cannot take a new array. We have to modify this array only. So how can we do this? So let's discuss the approach. Let's suppose I take a key as last non-zero index, initialized it with 0, right? So for every element I will check like if this is a non-zero element or not. If this is a non-zero element, I will store it at this index and then increase this index by 1, and whenever the next time I will get a non-zero element, I will store that element at that current last non-zero index. So let's try run this approach once. When we loop over this array, we will start with the first element itself. We will check if this element is not equal to 0, which is correct. So the 2 is not equal to 0, so we will store 2 at the 0th index. So the output will become 2. Then we will move on, and after storing this at 0th index, we will increment this last non-zero index, which signifies that we have got a non-zero element. Now the next non-zero element will be stored at index number 1, because at index number 0 we have ensured that we have a non-zero element, right? So when I move on, I encountered 0. 0 is equal to 0, so we cannot store it at this index. So I move on again. I encountered 3. 3 is not equal to 0, so I will store this 3 at this last non-zero index element, right? So at first index I will store 3, and then I will increment this last non-zero index by 1. This time it will become 2, and this 2 signifies that I have a non-zero element at the first index. Now then whenever I get a non-zero element, I get a non-zero number, I have to store it at index number 2. So let's move on and find our next non-zero element. So we encountered 0, which is equal to 0 obviously, so we cannot store it at index number 2. Then we again encountered one more 0, so we cannot store this as well. Then when we encountered 5, so we have to store this 5 at index number 2, right? So 5 will be stored at index number 2 because it is not equal to 0 obviously. And now we will increment this last non-zero index from 2 to 3, which again signifies that we got a non-zero element at index number 2 as well. This is index number 0, this is 1 and this is 2. Now whenever I encounter a next non-zero element, I have to store it at index number 3, right? So we move on and reach 1. 1 is not equal to 0 again, so we can store this at index number 3. We stored in 1 at index number 3, and we incremented this last non-zero index from 3 to 4, right? And the array got over, right? So after that we have 3 empty spaces left. After that we just simply have to fill these empty spaces with zeros. How can we do that? We can simply start looping over from this index. I know what the first empty index is. This is 4, right? From starting from 4 till the end of the array, I have to fill all these elements with zeros. That can be done with a for loop, right? So let's code it. Let's first create a function, move zeros, which will take an array nums, right? Let's create this variable last non-zero index and initialize it with 0, which signifies that we have to start storing non-zero elements with index number 0, because we do not know index number 0 contains a 0 or a non-zero element, right? So we'll start checking with index number 0 itself. Now I will start looping over the array nums dot length I plus plus. We simply have just to check, like, if nums of I is not equal to 0. If it is not equal to 0, I just have to store this current element at this index, right? Nums of last non-zero index should be equal to nums of I, and I have to increment this last non-zero index by 1, which signifies that next time whenever I got a non-zero element, I have to store at the next position, right? After this for loop, I will be done with this part. Now I will be left with filling zeros to the empty spaces left at the end, right? So I can run another for loop, which will start with this last non-zero index, right? Because this was 4 and we have to start filling with from 4 till the end. So I will be last non-zero index, I should be less than nums dot length and I plus plus. So nums of I should be equal to 0. So as we know, JavaScript, this parameters is passed by reference, so this will modify the array which we will pass in this function. We are not creating any new array. So let's run this function, move zeros and pass this to the array. Let's console log this array before we pass it in function once, and log it after passing it in function as well, right? So let me make a comment before and after, right? So let's check it's working. Yes, before the array was like 2030051, and after the array got updated with 2351 and 000, right? So we can check this array as well. I uh, 2 2 and 2, right? So yes, this array initially the 0 was somewhere in between and at any random places, and after processing the zeros got shifted at the very end. So this is how we can approach this problem as well. If you like the solution, please consider liking the video. Comment me down below if you want more such videos, and please consider subscribing to the channel for more such videos. Thank you.